Sir, just there is a technical issue. Just a minute, sir. We'll continue.
Is it audible, sir? Hello.
True. Yes.
Yes, sir. It is audible
Yes,
now.
Sorry for inconvenience. So normally, sir, this is how banks are giving various supportive schemes for, especially for startups, sir. So would like to know type of funding schemes available through your bank, sir.
Fine. Shall I take up, or Kumar sir, you would like to take up initially?
Sir, please yourself.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, friends. So it's actually the startup is the subject itself is a very encouraging and then buzzword as of now in the market. So the startup is not basically a very new term which we are hearing now. So if you remember in 80s itself, Narayan Murthy sir has started Infosys. That was a startup. So and then even Jio was started as a startup. Airtel was started as a startup. So what happened after this Make in India and then Startup India started in somewhere around 2014-15. So more and more encouragement has been given to all the youngsters and then all the stakeholders. Basically, the momentum has picked up very well after that. So we have seen many startups in the past. A few have failed. Few have got a very huge, tremendous thumping success. Basically, if we look at the overall story of startups, it has started maybe somewhere around 10-15 years back. 1,000 and odd startups were there. As on date, we have almost 1 lakh startups in India. And the very fantastic point is, so 50% of their startups are in Bangalore, and the next biggest city is Hyderabad. So we have around 30 to 35% startups which are accounting for the entire India parent. So when we start talking about startup, it is not only the requirement of funding, and it's an understanding the basic idea of the startup, and then encouraging this particular startup in a 360-degree format. So if I say, so if I want to talk about any fresh startup, so we need to see the overall ecosystem. First of all, whether we need to understand their requirement. What is their requirement? Many startups may not require funding as such, hardcore funding. So they may have an idea. They want to have some cash flow, so solution they may be needing, or maybe some part of a training it is required, or API formation is required. Funding arrangement anyways that is there, and then cloud access is required. So certain if we divide startup requirements in a couple of ways. One is purely financial part and another is non-financial part. So we to encourage or maybe to be in line with the central government or government of India's plans. So every bank has started their own vertical or maybe a dedicated system in India. So for suppose if I take a State Bank of India, they have taken as an e-bank and e-incubator they have started. And then like HDFC has started their dedicated team. Even ICICI has a dedicated capital actually, so somewhere around 150 crores. So and then they have a dedicated team to support entire ecosystem. So similarly, all banks have taken this step forward to encourage it. And then many banks have started incubators. Just like if somebody is having an idea of doing a startup or maybe doing something, so they will give a training to them. So under they can freely go into that training module and then they can develop. Even banks have their own platforms. So wherein banks have given certain platforms to them for use. And certain things banks are doing. And now also maybe if I take a startup which may not be requiring pure hard cash, so they may be requiring cash flow management. So they need to collect some cash in the sense cash or money check through whatever the system. So we can give a CMS cash management system to them. And then if they want actually to have payment solutions, So if you want to have the payment throughout the India, so maybe through cards or debit cards, credit cards, or maybe different payable systems, those are available. And if they want to have this, so PE funding. So there's certain things we want to tell you. So the cost of funding is always cheaper when funds are coming from abroad. So for suppose if they are finding somebody or someone else in outside India, so and banks can facilitate them, or maybe they want to have in foreign funding because so they have an export or something, then foreign funding will be a cheaper. So banks can arrange a foreign funding, or maybe they can arrange PEs, or maybe some investors from outside. So these are all the support system we are giving it. And to the basic hard cash, we have an systems unsecured facilities up to 1 crore, or maybe we can extend that up to 2 crores in case-to-case basis. And if these ecosystems are needing more than that, and they have some sort of collateral or personal guarantees, we can give them. Basically, the funding will be based on their requirement. If they want to have the working capital funding, we can give the short-term funding. And they want to establish a very big unit, and but they want a term loan, we can give a term loan. So it's not actually a straight through pass saying that some startup is coming, we want to give CC or we want to give term loan, nothing like that. And every bank is actually moduling it and then custom creative solutions we are providing now. Now, bank has actually, all banks have moved from the traditional accepting cash and taking deposits and giving loans to the solution providers. Now, every bank is a solution provider. It's no more a normal bank. So you will be wondered if I tell you one thing. So even all banks are now have a succession planning team. So if somebody wants to write a will, or maybe somebody wants to have legal advice, bank is providing. So we never heard of in the past. So similarly, now banks are looked upon as in solutions, overall solutions. Maybe their salary solutions and their savings bank current account solutions. Like that, it varies. So, and to be very precise, and then for the hardcore cash funding, it's basically we have an unsecured funding. Unsecured in the sense no need of collateral, personal guarantees will be taken, and then that will be having some sort of a cap, maybe 1 crore or 2 crores depending on the profile. And then if collateral is there, then based on the merits of the proposal, we can take it up. So Satish ji, is it okay, or you want some more understanding, deeper understanding on this?
So I do agree that yes, banks are initiated to the great extent at present to funding, as we
lost you.
All these things and advising them, and even understanding business model. But still, this how you really describe the bank of from your side, the supporting, and sir, this is any only for I can say unique products or services, or unique services or innovation, or any other products which are commercial viable, or by seeing this life of the product, or like how it is going to be supported by the banks, sir. And especially I'm asking, is it for unique products or services, or like commercial viability?
See, there are two ways we can look into this. So certain startups are cash burning startups, and then they burn their equity and their borrowed funds, everything to us to one extent, and then they start the momentum, just like our Swiggy. So it's a mass movement. It takes a lot of time to be on the track. So certain startups are there. From the day when they start converting their efforts into cash. So wherein the requirement is less, and then here their requirement is more. So what we do, so we look up on the product specific, what is the life of that product, whether our funding suits to them. If certain product needs a longer gestation period per se for 10 years, we need to adjust our funding pattern to suit their gestation. See, basically only one thing, if I am investing a rupee into my business, I want to have my 1 rupee back with an interest or something. Otherwise, there is no point of starting any startup. So unless it is a charitable trust which basically doesn't need any profit. So this is not the case. So we need to adjust accordingly. If it is a niche product and then it may be taking a longer period for cash generation, that's fine. We are okay. See, if you remember, we have one Skyroot or Dhruva Space. So wherein these are from Hyderabad only. So they have sent a few satellites into airspace. So from this market, so their requirement was on a huge site. So it's a niche product. We never know that that will be a success or a failure. So the banks have actually trusted them, and then I don't want to name the banks, but the banks have funded them, and then banks have arranged public private equity, and then from foreign funding. The moment the progress was very good, and then other players have come into place and then replaced banks. So if particular product, if banks can able to see that it has a life, definitely we are there into that. And then you may have a one question in mind stating that these are the bankers, they are basically looking at the papers, so how they would be knowing that whether this particular product actually suits or maybe it generates income. So that basically we employ different technocrats, and then we have a different third party agencies which work on behalf of banks, and then they will give a reply. And anyways, the banks are there since ages, and then since ages many startups have come. Every time banks have supported them. So irrespective whether this particular product is actually having a some life, if bankers feel that, they are there.
Sir, very nice, sir. You have given a much more clarity for this one. But just I would like to have a small clarity for even for the participants also. Even government, state level and central level, they extended as tax soaps or some subsidy schemes for based on the technology, based on the especially for any reservation aspect or women empowerment. They've extended various tax soaps or subsidy schemes. So is it the same is available at our banks also, sir?
See, banks have a different actually platform altogether. So we classify our loans into a couple of buckets. One bucket is a priority sector lending, pure priority sector. Second is a commercial lending. Third one is a semi PSL lending. So as of now, startups actually based on their mode of working, we classify them as a priority sector. And then we give a priority sector lending is always at a cheaper rate than the normal pricing. So those benefits are definitely being passed on to the startups as far as the interest rate is concerned. And we are completely aligned with the government schemes, either state government or central government, maybe sometimes in the NABARD, sometimes government, the World Bank needs. So whatever the subsidies they are giving to us, so we consider that, and then those subsidy amount we deduct, and then we will not charge interest on that. For suppose I will give you an example. If for setting up of a biogas plant in a particular place, so if government is giving a subsidy of maybe 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs, for say 30 lakhs, I have extended my loan of around 40 to 50 lakhs. So if government is giving that 30 lakhs, we exclude that 30 lakhs after coming to in our account, and then we charge interest for the remaining 20 lakhs only. And then this 30 lakhs will be adjusted towards the loan at the end of the tenure. So that way, banks are completely aligned with the government schemes. Sadhji?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you really, because why I'm saying this insisting is where really they are giving much propaganda and just they come with the various media. Yes, we are for the economical development, regional imbalances, to support the regional imbalances. The government really initiating various schemes even for their own agendas also is there. So this is where how really if they're supporting us, then definitely how this percentage of the banking side, percentage of the state banks, state government wise, to extend their funding support for this, especially for women entrepreneurs. Any idea, sir?
True, sir. See, for women entrepreneurs, there is some special schemes are there as far as the government is concerned. But as far our banks are concerned, we treat everybody on the same platform. We don't differentiate between the women entrepreneur and the men entrepreneur as far as the in application of interest is concerned. But we do consider the women entrepreneurs on a priority basis, and then we are not actually, so any undue differentiation, we are not doing anything. So, but as far as the commercials are concerned, commercials are same for everyone. But as for the state government and central government, they are extending a little bit extra monetary benefit to them that are being passed on through banks, and then we are there in that. See, I will give you one small example. So somewhere in around 2000, early 2000s. So this self-help group concept was actually doing very good. And then Andhra Pradesh, this combined Andhra Pradesh was the pioneer in that. So, so out of 1 lakh self-help groups, 99,900 are were run by, or maybe even now they are being run by women only. You know what is the NPA level in that? You know what is the NPA level in that? It's less than 0.5%.
It's quite encouraging thing, sir. Really encouraging.
It's obvious. So we all eating this papad, Lijjat papad. You go to any supermarket. Lijjat papad is an lady-oriented this papad manufacturing plant originated from Gujarat.
Yes. This is quite interesting. There's where no NPA means there is 100% financially commercially successful, and they're able to pay back to banks.
Correct. Even you know this Bandhan Bank. Bandhan Bank has started just like a microfinance, and then across West Bengal and then other northeastern states, they were even funding 10,000, 15,000. So based on that only, so our central government has recommended Mudra loans. You might have seen that Mudra loans, that is as small as 10,000, 5,000, 15,000 rupees. Even though touchwood, I am saying that our Kumarji, so these public sector banks are really hats off to them. So they are the backbone of country, and then they have given a tremendous job in these Mudra loans. And then again, so there is a minimum NPA level in that also.
Thank you, sir. Such a more suitable and more clarity for this this area, which is really welcoming one, sir. And I would like to extend my question to Mr. Venkatesh Garu, my friend. Sir, Venkatesh Garu, good afternoon, sir. Venkatesh Garu. Good afternoon, sir.
Sir, Venkateswara sir, please unmute yourself, sir. Yes.
Sir, good afternoon, Satish sir. Good afternoon.
So nice to hear that I accepted for this panel discussion. Sir, and whereas I would like to have a small clarity about this. What is the increase in support?
Your voice is breaking.
Especially for startups.
Hello?
Sir, funding support from the banks increasing yearly, increasing compared to from past 4 years, from past 5 years. The growth in this increase for funding.
Satish sir, please come again, sir.
Yes, sir. So I would like to know, is there any continuous growth in for funding support for startup through Andhra Bank, through Union Bank?
Yes, sir. In fact, the startups, as Ramakrishna sir has told, these startups have started very early in the 2014 and 15. The government of India has taken good initiative to encourage the youth power of India. In fact, the startups are they are the what you call engine to boost our Indian economy. So once the startups are started in 2014 and 15, the government of India is always encouraging to the youth. And in fact, in the recent budget also, Nirmala Sitharaman has announced some 7 pillars. Out of those, 2 pillars are most important to encourage the startups. Like one is youth power and one is unleashing the potential. So when we see the majority of the workforce in India is around 30 years of age. So she thought, and the government of India has also thought, to if we encourage the youth to build their startups, then the economy of the India will grow automatically. So to boost the startups in India, our public sector banks, we are just funding as per the requirement of the startups, the funding is of term loan or working capital or CC. So in these ways, we are funding to the startups, whoever comes to public sector banks. And we got the what you call the freedom to fund to the youngsters to further startups because of the introduction of CGTMSE, that is a credit guarantee fund for micro and small units. So the startups mostly they come with some micro and small units only. So now, as the government of India is backed with the for credit facility, so now we have got that leverage to fund for any type of startups. Of course, it's what you call viable. If they bring the viable projects to us, then with the proper project, proper location, and with their what you call location, then we are ready to. We are providing. We are extending the loan facilities to the new entrepreneurs as well as the startups. Startups, we have got a Prime Minister Employment Generation Program is also there, one of the government sponsored scheme, and the Mudra loans are also available for them to build their startups. And there is one good scheme called Stand Up India scheme to encourage the SC, ST, and women entrepreneurs. Up to 1 crore, we are extending from 10 lakhs to 1 crore. And we got our own product of Union Bank of India, that is Union Startup. So depending upon the requirement of the startups, we got various facilities to extend the loans to all the youngsters, those who are intended to start their startups. So this way, one way we are encouraging the youth in extending the loans, thereby we can increase the economy of the nation. So, and we can provide many employment opportunities once we are able to build a startup. At least a minimum of 8% for one startup. So, if we encourage to build the startups, then definitely we are providing employment opportunities to many of the young forces also. So, this way, the government public sector banks are encouraging all the youth for their startups. Satish sir?
Sir, this is a quite interesting information, sir. And whereas, sir, regarding working capital loan and any seed capital support.
So working capital is for your what you call after building up the startup. Working capital will be provided for their day-to-day requirement to run that particular unit. But whereas the term loan will be provided to start up for their purchasing infrastructure and the raw materials. So that's the basic difference between the term loan and the working capital. Working capital will be given for day-to-day requirements, the unit.
Right, sir. And sir, where is this? Where I can say specifically from when before and after merger of this Andhra Bank and this Union Bank, where how how do you differentiate in the ecosystem available now with respect to the support for startups?
So see, the public sector banks always we generally take the what you call the guidelines from government of India. We take the base the union budget. As every year we know the union budget after the budget is announced, we meticulously follow what you call the projects taken, the initiatives taken in the union budget. Accordingly, we design our own products which are suitable to our budget to encourage, to fulfill the requirements of the government.
Right, sir. And small one more clarity of this, especially when you talk about a lot government initiations, financial funding schemes for startups, and and even venture capitalists also taking their much initiation for supporting. Though it is a venture capitalist initiation in government in India, but so later compared to the developed countries. And whereas even philanthropists also coming forward to extend their financial support for like Reliance or Ambani or especially for Wipro under CSR also they're extended. Tata also extended their financial support. So is there any like this? Is there any financial institutions are giving financial assistance to startups with special reference to banks which are associated with? Means any financial
No,
institutions funding directly to bank for further support for startups.
so basically the person who is interested to build a startup, he has to approach the bank only first. Okay, the bank will go through the project report. After going through the project report, if it is viable, in fact, the person who wants to start up, he'll fill the application form through online. Suppose if I take a PMEGP, he under PMEGP he has to fill up the application form through online only, and the online application will go to the magistrate like district collector. After consideration from district collector, it comes to the bank. Then we call the prospect or the applicant, and we discuss with this project. Then the application comes to the bank. Then we'll provide a loan under PMEGP to the applicant. This is what goes on. And same way Mudra also. We have got the online system, sir. Whosoever wants the loans from government sponsored schemes has to apply through online only. Then only it comes to the bank. Then the bank provides the loans to the startups or new entrepreneurs. Under we cover these schemes under CGTMSC because we will get the credit guarantee, and we can freely assist the person 85% depending upon the project and depending upon the schemes. Up to the 85% is credit guaranteed by the central government. So, and after this, actually, there are many eligibility criteria for while applying through PMEGP. They have to undergo the entrepreneurship development programs also. So, after fulfilling all the eligibility criteria, then the banks take the next step in extending the loan.
Sir,
So, Satishji, just I want to add a few points here.
please, sir.
So the question of actually whether the directly the industry majors like Ambani, Tatas are actually funding into bank. So not directly encouraged or allowed by RBI. The point number one. So they can have their own setup. So if you see there is one show, Shark Tank. So you might have heard about that.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So when there is a TV show. It's basically a TV show. So wherein people from the various industries and these financially stable people, they come on that platform. They hear about the entire story of the startup, and then they gauge whether this will be going in a long way or not. If they are satisfied, they are directly funding into that startup. And then many financial institutions like Tata's and Ambanis, they have their own financing system. Through that, they are doing it. If you heard about DST, have you heard about this, sir? So this is a very fantastic initiative by our proud Telugu person only. So he was actually closely associating with our Ratan Tata, sir. And he got an idea. So for the funeral of the elders or maybe the people who are actually aging out, so he got a thought. So why don't we self-fund our cremation or maybe final rites? And then it is a startup by one person that is called DST. If you heard it in Google also, that is completely funded by Tatas. So basically, if somebody is having a good idea, and then if they are able to showcase that in a positive manner with a roadmap to earn something or to service something, the sky is the limit, sir. Just I want to add this.
Yes, true, sir. I accept that one. But say when you compare with this venture capitalist, philanthropist, what is the share of the public sector banks or private sector bankers, especially for this seed capital funding or as per our overall startup funding? Venkatesh garu, any idea?
Basically, so banks are there up to 50 to 60% in this entire startup funding. So if you see, startup funding has increased by 25% in the last year. And then overall, if you say it's around increased by around 60 to 70% in the horizon from 2014 to now. So, and then one interesting data I will give you. So as on date, startups are contributing to 4 to 5% of the entire GDP of India.
This interesting factor, sir. Sir, where I can share you a small information. There's really, though it is a delay in India, the venture capitalist support, but their prominence also slowly increasing. Venture capitalists are known for the technology supporters, and they have the technical knowledge, marketing knowledge, financial knowledge, where they will support startups from early stage of financing, like you can say seed funding and expansion financing, even acquisition. They are in different modes supporting latest technology, especially for IT industry or biotechnology industry. And even they are extended for service industry also. Is this type of support from banks for specifically I'm talking about the seed capital funding because is this any professional expertise from the banks to especially for how this marketing aspect, marketing viability and financial viabilities. Is there any sort of support from you, sir?
Understood, sir. So this I will answer this in a two-way. So two ways. So the point number one, if I talk about venture capitalist, as a if for suppose if I am a Tata concern or maybe having a Tata group party. So I have electronics on my hand. I have a computers. I have wheels, whatnot. I have everything in the under this sky. So I have the team of expertise, and then I have the manpower or maybe resource. And nowadays we are not using the manpower; it's a resource power. So there I can employ a certain resource in any startup, and then I can guide them. I can take a stake in that, and then I can allow them to use my marketing platform. Whereas banks are limited to expertise and funding only. So if for suppose if some NBFC or maybe some companies, some startup is coming up with inclusiveness of funding or maybe the banking system, yes, we are there. We can guide them, we can employ our people there, and then we can take them to the end point, or maybe we can travel with them. But for suppose if somebody is actually into space, and then I can't employ my person to guide them to send these satellites into the space. That is the basic difference. So as far as the banking is concerned, we can fund, we can arrange a training, or we can give some sort of a tips only. Whereas the venture capitalists, they have the resource, they have their platforms, they can jump into your business and then they can run it up. So these are the two basic differences. So Venkat sir, you can add on that.
Yes, nothing to add, sir.
Satish, is it clear, or you want something else to support this argument?
Really, so I accept, really accept because this is where it is really required from the bank also to give such type of support. But it's always look into the by bank, always even by the any bank, especially for private or public sectors, commercial viability is very important. I think the business model, the longevity of the product means the shelf life and especially return on investment. And as last one, even I would like to discuss with our participants also, the BEP, break-even point, especially we used to talk about previously 3.5 years, 3 years. Now the expectation from the startups also around 2 years, because as technology life was very, very shortened, you need to accept, yes, the life of the expectation of break-even point, where there is no return, and return on investment was exactly should be within 2 years, yes. Then I can continue this type of technology in future. Otherwise, I can, there is no point to continue because most of the startups are affected just because of for not having the technical knowledge, marketing knowledge, even financial exposure. So do you agree, sir?
So I agree with you. I agree with you 100% because you see, in that way, banks are also working. So that Venkat sir is saying that Union Bank of India has an incubator system. Even State Bank, even HDFC, even ICICI, we have an incubator system. So what happens if somebody, startup is coming up, we put them into that. So we have a third-party agencies expertise in all the different, arena. So they come to there and then they guide them, they suggest them, they incubate, and then maybe after a certain period of time, they have to start their own. So whereas on the venture capital, what I am saying is I am a Tata concern, maybe. A Tech Mahindra, you can see is a Tech Mahindra taken over entire Satyam. So what happened in that? So Satyam, they are into computers, so and then they were doing some sort of an software. So who is the best possible man or maybe best possible organization to take over? Tech Mahindra or some other tech organization they have taken over. And then similarly, yes, Bank has faced some few challenges. So who has come into this picture? State Bank of India has come into picture. So had Tech Mahindra or maybe had Infosys come into picture for Yes Bank, that would not have been continued as a bank. Similarly, had State Bank of India or Union Bank or ICICI Bank has taken over that Satyam Computers, that would have become another NBFC. So it's a likewise comparison we need to do. So for suppose for any startup to grow, they should have their own environment mechanism to run up and then to run on their own. So somebody like banks or maybe financial institutions, they can guide, they can give the support system, but they can't basically run into their shoes. So whereas the venture capitalist can run into their shoes. If he is seeing that something is really, really going wrong, so instead of keeping their money at stake, they jump into that and they will take them through the rough waters. That is the basic difference, sir. But yes, it's a long way to go. Banks are actually creating an environment which is completely aligned with central government and startups. And nowadays, if any particular product or maybe some particular person or some particular entity is having thought, is having a product and funding requirement, there is no dearth of it. This is what my point.
Thank you, sir. As really banks having enough funding, but always they are so cautious in especially looking for commercial viable projects. So Venkatesh Garu, a small clarity from you also required, sir. Whereas you are concerned with the public sector bank. So is there any long standing of more documentation or with the rigid documentation or any extended support from by reducing this documentation as previously what do you call single window system by the central state government, not much documentation required and by the entrepreneurs, because previously if I want to get a registration, I need to move a lot of offices and get the lot of permission, and the government removed this with the help of a single window. At one go, all relevant legal documents is supported. Even our state government, KTR, also announced one of the wonderful support that if any entrepreneur wants to close his the project within a year, there is no legal hassles. They can close with a single consent document. That's it. As compared to previous a lot of documents, even I want to close. This way, really entrepreneurs fed up with that because for opening lot of documents, closing lot of documentation, but as KTR really supported by giving a single page consent, you can now cancel and which allows them to start once again near future. Sir, so I am just get a clarity from you. What type of support from your this side, Union Bank, to extend support for startups in documentation procedure or any other type of procedure, relevant procedure?
Yes, sir. Satish, sir. This documentation, it is as per the requirement of the loan. We need to have the documentation procedure. And while coming to the relaxation in documentation, already the government has also announced in this budget that there have given some 3,800 relaxations. That means they are not for, it is not the 3,800 relaxations may not be applicable to all the startups. Depending upon the startups, there are some relaxations given by the government, and we also follow the guidelines from the central government. So as per the central government relaxation, the banks also implement the same. And comparing to the previous years, the documentation has, we made very liberal documentation for all the startups. So the youngsters need not to get afraid of for the sake of documentation, because the minimum document with minimum documentation, we are providing the loans to all the startups. So without considering the minimum, at least the KYC and the viable project and some of the basic documents, those are required by all the banks, and those are must. So we are not at all forcing, which is not feasible for the startups. We are not asking the documents which are not what you call which they can't get from other what you call services. So very liberal documentation is only available in the present situations. And first of all, sir, for this documentation, if the what you call each and every bank has its own guidelines with respect to the RBI guidelines also. So the public sector banks have to follow the RBI guidelines, even the private sector banks also, and we have got the own framework of getting the documentation. So we are not going to make hard or harsh in making the documentation for any startups or for any person who comes for a loan.
It's really encouraging of you, Sadhiti. You do agree. Basic documentation is 100% required. It is, we should go any entrepreneur or startup should undergo all this documentation. I do agree. And the way you really saying, quite encourageable one approach from the Union Bank, how they're supporting or extending their support for finance aspects for startups. And a small, one more clarity from our side with especially Ramakrishna Garu. Sir, is there any means from the bankers, from the RBI, what is the minimum support in future or the maximum extending support from the banks for these startups? Is there any clarity from the RBI, sir, or through your
so you were asking about the financially, monetarily?
Yes, sir.
See, so basically there is no monetary cap at all. So if I want to manufacture a jet, I may be requiring 100 crores. Okay, if I want to manufacture a self-propelling ink pen or something, I may be requiring 1 crore. So that depends entirely on the project and then appetite of the banks and at that point of time. See what happens, so as a bank, I may not be able to, or I may not be in a position to fund a unit beyond 1 cap. So in that case, what happens if there is a project of around 100 crores, I will not be able to push my entire 100 crores capital into that. So the famous saying, don't put too many eggs in one basket, just like that. So I may be limiting my lending capacity or cap. And then I may ask the team to actually fund it. So we frame a consortium along our banks, or maybe we may ask somebody PE or somebody venture capitalist. So as a group, we will see that. So the funding, if it is beyond anybody's capacity. For the normally 20, 30, 40, 50 crores, every bank is comfortable as on date. Is it clear, sir, or some more clarity is required in that?
Yes, sir. No, I am not just, my question is, sir, we have given a wonderful example from Andhra, the success stories of entrepreneurs with a very less NPA, means success stories of startups are really good going. And is there really any impacted growth of startups in Telangana, Sir Venkatesh Garu?
Sir, impact of startups in
Impact and
Telangana.
growth of startups in Telangana. Any MSMEs or women as it is, whichever. Any idea?
Sir, particularly if we speak about Telangana, in fact, the South India have more tech savvies. Okay, and especially the Telangana is also producing many more engineers every year, and the government of Telangana is also encouraging the startups. Like as you mentioned that our IT minister is taking for the liberal documentation procedure. So in Telangana, yeah, I can firmly say that we get more startups if we encourage our youngsters. So we have to encourage our youngsters, and we should what you call remove the fear of mind from the youngsters to enter into the bank with their innovative ideas. They have to go along with their innovative ideas to the banks and share with them with their projects, with their well-designed projects. So the banks are ready to encourage the youth in establishing their startups. So I can say that Telangana is the more prominent state for the next few years to bring more and more startups.
So here I want to add one thing, Satish ji. So when you are talking about Hyderabad and per se Telangana, so who saved India along with other vaccine manufacturer in India, or maybe to be very specific to the entire world, Hyderabad. So we have provided a fantastic vaccine. What that is it? That was a startup only. When started in India, in Hyderabad, somewhere 15, 20 years back, they have started in a small office. Now you see where they are. So I don't want to mention the name, as maybe I'm not supposed to. So you all know how this Covaxin or Covishield both are actually saved the entire world. Both were startups. And one more thing, when these vaccines were manufacturing in Hyderabad, so not only the vaccine, the support system, the cartons and the bottles, those are all supported or maybe supplied by our ecosystem in Hyderabad. So when something is actually happening, so that ecosystem completely develops. And then we all know the electric bikes. You know how many electric bikes are being manufactured out of the 200 or somewhere around 250 electrical companies which they have registered for selling in India, 150 are from Telangana. And the biggest success, Aether, maybe that is from Bangalore, but few parts are being exported, not exported, but transported from Hyderabad to Bangalore. So this way, so entire ecosystem on or maybe around the startups is really encouraging as on date. So I told you, so 4 to 5% percentage of GDP is coming from startups. So before these startups becoming unicorn.
Yes, sir. See, where I just have a small note about this journey of a startups or entrepreneur. Really, journey of entrepreneur always go nicely and strongly for a long term with a wonderful ecosystem. The ecosystem may talks about government support, everybody knows it, access to capital, and even the talent aspect, especially for state level or central level, the talent support, especially from engineering colleges or technical expertise, and even the government initiatives like various training centers or AICT support and supportive culture for entrepreneurship, various awareness programs, either through education system or through outside like NSIC, and even I can say Make in India support. This type of ecosystem really good for encouraging more and more startups which are commercially viable. I can say commercially viable means success factors. Within 2 years, within 3 years, they can get return on investment, and they can see the market growth, market share growth, and even the expansion. this is where you can see, yes, journey of entrepreneurs in this with this available ecosystem is really wonderful and going well. So this is where I add to my note also for this this panel discussion as really fruitful discussion, both of you, and giving wonderful in-depth information to encourage the participants and allows participants to think positively for this type of panel discussions where they really give them how banks are really extended support with the minimum documentation and what type of support, especially working capital or seed capital support, even from various schemes by state governments and central government. So I hope the ecosystem is really going well, and even people are with the more talent pool is coming with the students or even our teaching professionals also. That is a wonderful thing where I can see. I need to appreciate our teaching fraternity. Yes, these people also with wonderful research capabilities and having much experience, marketing knowledge, and these people also one among the best startups in very near future to get support from all this financial support and really prove themselves. Yes, we are also the best part of startup in India, make in India, to show their own success stories, sir. Hope with this note, I may interested to close this this session. Is it okay, madam?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I have one small question, sir. Is there any age limit for the startups to start, or the minimum age or the maximum age?
60 years, madam. 60 years. 60 years.
60 years is maximum, sir.
Startup
Minimum
India
age
is
is 18 years, madam.
Okay.
18 years, madam.
18 years we can start. Okay.
18 years, yes.
Right.
The 62
See,
years.
basically, I want to take this question on a two different platform, madam. See, for starting up of an entrepreneurship or startup, there is no age. So even 60-year-old can start, or maybe 78 years old can start. So the point you all, maybe I am a pure vegetarian, there's a different issue, leave that apart. So you all might have heard the KFC. That guy has started that KFC at the age of 68 or 70.
Yes.
So there is no age at all. So the legal age, what Venkat sir is saying, so we have to fund anybody or encourage anybody, those should be minimum 18 years. And then up to maybe 65 or maybe 60, 65, we will look at, because succession factor comes into place after that. So we will be requiring other partners to jump into that. This is the two-way question actually you have asked, ma'am.
No, I agree, sir, but whatever it may be, the first and final thing is the product or idea, whatever the idea, it should be commercially viable. Means the product can be sold, should have a demand for at least 5 years. Otherwise, there is no growth and there is no return on investment. So thank you, madam, once again.
Thank you.
And Venkatesh Garu, Ramakrishna Garu, for your wonderful, valuable time and extend your support. For any other things, please accept me.
Thank you so much, sir. Ramakrishna sir,
Thank you, sir.
Venkateswarlu sir, and Satish sir for having a fruitful discussion and giving a life to this panel discussion topic. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, panel. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I request all the participants to rejoin by 2:20 for another session. Session by Funding Resources for Innovation, Incubation and Startups by Vijay Bhavra sir. Thank you all participants. Rejoin by 2:20 with a short break.